Welcome. In this video, we're going to install the CS101 Mac virtual machine. This VM will allow you to run Windows and Microsoft Office for Windows on your Mac. The normal version of Office for Macs does not include the Microsoft Access database, which is used in a number of CS101 assignments. Using the virtual machine, you'll be able to run Access and complete these assignments. To get started, there's a couple things that you should be aware of. First of all, you want to make sure that either you have a laptop where the battery is fully charged or that you have it plugged into the wall outlet. This installation is going to take a little while, so we don't want to have the battery run out partway through. You'll need a stable, hopefully high-speed internet connection. We're going to be downloading about 11 gigabytes worth of files, so if you have an unreliable connection or one that's very slow, you're going to have problems. Try to find a high-speed internet connection if possible. If you're on the WVU campus and you go to CS101 Open Lab, there may be adapters available for you to use the wired network rather than the wireless network, which will allow things to run faster. For your Mac, you're going to need to be running at least Mac OS 10.14. If you have an older version, the installation script is going to tell you about that, so you don't need to worry about checking that. The other thing that you do need to be aware of is that you'll want to have at least 20 gigabytes of free disk space on your Mac. If you have less than that, the installation script is going to warn you and will allow you to choose whether or not you want to proceed. You need to have at least 11 or 12 gigabytes just to install the virtual machine, but as you use it, it's going to need more disk space. So if you have less than 20 gigabytes free, we suggest that you go and stop the installation, go and uninstall some other programs that you don't use, or looking to see if there's things that you can delete, and then come back and try to run the installation again. Let's go ahead and get started. In my browser, I've gone to the page on the CS101 website that has instructions for how to install the virtual machine. You may be actually watching this video embedded on this page. To get started with the installation process, we need to first of all open up a new terminal window. We can do this by pressing the Command key and the space bar simultaneously. That's going to open up the Spotlight search window. We want to type in terminal and then hit the return key. That'll open up a terminal window like we have shown on the screen here. We're going to have to type a command into the terminal window, or we can go and copy and paste it. That command is given on the instructions page. If we go down here, you can see where it's listed. It's this command here that starts off with SH. If we click the copy icon that's at the right side of the form field, it'll actually go and copy that command to the clipboard, so we don't have to worry about typing it in manually. We can go back to terminal. I'm going to right click and choose paste. You can see the commands pasted there, and then I'll hit the return key. After we run that command, you'll see that the install script begins to set up the virtual machine. There are a couple places here where it's going to need some answers for us, and one of them here is on this very first screen. It's going to go through and just tell us that it wants to go and set up virtual machine and VirtualBox on our Mac. It's asking us if we want to continue. Now, if we have either an old version of Mac OS or not enough disk space, you may also see messages about that pop up here. But in my case, I have plenty of disk space and I have the current version of Mac OS, so I don't get those messages. With this first screen here, where it's asking if we want to begin installation, let's go ahead and enter Y for yes, and then we can go and press the return key. Next, the install script is going to ask us if we want to download the needed files. In most cases, we want to go ahead and tell it yes. The only case where we would tell it no is if we were copying files from a flash drive or something like that, but in the vast majority of cases here, we just want to go and download everything. So I'm going to tell it yes, I'll enter a Y, and then hit the return key. Once we do that, the downloads will start for 4 different files. It has to download VirtualBox, the VirtualBox extension pack, the virtual machine configuration file, and the virtual machine hard disk. The virtual machine hard disk will take a while. It's a pretty large file. It's about 10 gigabytes. So even on a fairly high-speed internet connection, you can still expect it to take at least 10 to 15 minutes. If you're on a slower connection like DSL, it may take 30 to 60 minutes or perhaps more. This is a case where having access to good high-speed internet is going to make things go a lot more smoothly. You'll be able to see on screen kind of a running countdown of how much is still left to download and how long it's expected that that's going to take. Once the files are downloaded, you'll also see showing on screen that it's going to verify those files just to make sure that everything was downloaded successfully, that there weren't any problems with the files. Most of those verifications will occur pretty quickly, but the one for the virtual machine hard disk file, because that file is so large, may take a couple moments. And we'll just go ahead and allow this download to continue. Once the files have been downloaded and verified, the installation script will be ready to start actually installing things. You'll be prompted to enter your password. This is going to be the password that you use to sign into your Mac, like if it's asleep or you just turned it on. When you type in your password, you're not going to be able to see your password or actually that you're typing anything at all. But as long as you go ahead and hit the return key when you're done, it'll be able to proceed. If you typed in something wrong, you'll get prompted to try again. If this is the first time that you've set up VirtualBox on this Mac, you may get a message like this one shown on the screen here, letting you know that you're going to have to enable kernel extensions. We'll see how this works here in a moment. We can go ahead and press the return key to continue. Some of these steps may take several minutes to complete. If this is your first time setting things up, you will get this message saying system extension blocked. As the instructions said earlier, we want to click on Open Security Preferences, and that's going to bring up a window that will look like this. We need to click the lock to make changes, and we'll enter the password for our Mac user account again. Tell it to unlock. We want to click the Allow button to allow changes, and then we can go and relock things and close out of this window. We'll go back to terminal here. It's just telling us that it's finished with the installation, or just about. There's a couple screens of information that we need to read through. So we can press the return key to continue. This screen here is just telling us that there's going to be a new VirtualBox icon on our system tray that will go into to go ahead and start the virtual machine. When you go and start the virtual machine, you're going to have to log into Windows with it. The password that you'll need to enter is capital A, capital B, lowercase c, lowercase d, and the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. You can change that password if you like once you sign in for the first time, or you can keep it as the default. We'll go ahead and hit return again to read the next screen. This screen here is just a reminder that we have to make sure that we properly go and shut down the virtual machine when we're done with it. We want to go to the Start menu and go to, under Power Options, we want to go into Shutdown to go ahead and make sure that Windows is properly shut down. We have a link here showing a page on the CS101 website with instructions as well. If you don't shut things down properly, it's possible that the virtual machine might become damaged and not work correctly. So you want to make sure that you take the right steps just to go ahead and shut it down like you would a normal Windows computer. Don't just go ahead and force it off, because you can cause problems then. The first time you go ahead and run Office, you will have to go and activate it. We have links to instructions here on how you can go ahead and do that, but it's a pretty straightforward process. You're going to go through and enter a username and password. The username will be your Mix email address, except for, instead of being at mix.wvu.edu, it'll be at mail.wvu.edu. So like, for example, if your WVU login username is abc101234, you would go ahead and use abc01234 at mail.wvu.edu as your username. Your password, when you get prompted for that, is going to be the same thing as your WVU login password. If you have problems with activating Office, you should call ITS Help Desk at 304-293-4444. Go ahead and press return again. If you didn't set up the system extensions on that earlier dialog box, you'll get a message telling you how to go ahead and do that now at this point in time. But assuming that you did everything, we are basically ready to go. You'll get this last message here saying that the VM should be go ahead and ready to be used. Just a message to, you want to use the virtual machine for homeworks, exams, participation projects, and MyLab bonus projects. If you're trying to go ahead and do the MyLab lessons, just do those in your regular Mac browser. You don't need to use the virtual machine for them. And actually, some of the homeworks 1 through 3, and a lot of the participation projects, you can actually just do in the Mac version of Office. You don't even need the virtual machine for those, unless the assignment specifically says that it requires the Windows version of Office. At this point in time, let's go ahead and take a look in VirtualBox just to make sure that the virtual machine is available to run. So you can see we have this new CS101 Mac VM, and we can go ahead and click the Start button to start it if we want to use it. I'm going to go ahead and close out of these windows, and if everything runs correctly, you can go and delete this CS101 Mac VM folder that's on your desktop by dragging it to the trash and emptying it to the trash. If you ran into problems, there is actually a file inside that you can send to your section instructor for help. This file, install.log, contains information about the installation process, including details on different decisions that were made during the installation and anything that went wrong. You can go and send that as an email attachment to your CS101 section instructor if you encountered problems. If everything runs smoothly with your virtual machine, it's safe to go ahead and delete the CS101 Mac VM folder, and we suggest you go ahead and do that just to save a little bit of space. Good luck with using the virtual machine, and if you have any questions, please contact your section instructor or visit CS101 Open Lab.